week on Service from Hell.
I just got to figure out what I'm doing. Yeah, I don't want to limit your movements. This is my biggest problem is that I match how people sound when I'm interviewing them. So I'm going to try to not sound like you when I'm doing this. Oh, hi. You're listening to Service from Hell, a podcast featuring people that are currently in customer service positions or the lucky ones that got out and all of the good, bad, and infinitely irritating things that go along with that work. I'm actor and writer Kate Gaffney, and I'm uniquely qualified to discuss this as I used to work at a very busy and very popular comedy club in Los Angeles. And at least one of you listening right now has probably grabbed me and told me you were ready to order when I was running around like a crazy person. So let's eat. I'd like to welcome our guest, Michelle Garris. Michelle is joining us via Skype because I am not in LA and we are still technically speaking under a quarantine, which is annoying. So the sound's going to reflect that a little bit. That said, Michelle's been working in Hollywood for some of the least popular shows you've probably never heard of, like Friday Night Lights, Desperate Housewives, and The Office, as a production assistant and a post PA. And she's worked for a ton of companies that you have heard of and seen when you're watching movies or TV. So I better know Michelle from her putting me on some of the most fun sets of my life to work and watch her direct people and handle business and be amazing. Michelle, I've only physically seen you once in 5 months, which is bullshit. But tell me how you are and where you are and what happens in your life because you're a true Hollywood success story. So take it away, Michelle. She's laughing at that. It's true, though.
I'm laughing so much. Thank you. Much needed. How am I? I am okay.
Okay.
The world is on fire. I am okay.
Where are you from?
I am from Northridge, California, but raised in South Carolina, a little town called Rock Hill, 20 minutes south of Charlotte, North Carolina. And I have lived in LA for almost 15 years now.
Wow. Do you like LA?
I do. I love it.
Oh, that's good. Okay. So what brought you out to LA to begin with?
I came out here originally, you may not know this, for the first time when I was 18, because I, too, was going to be an actor.
Oh, really? I did not know this.
Yeah. I still have my contact sheet. So that only lasted 6 months. I was a hot mess at 18. I'm very thankful we did not have social media.
Hello. Oh, same.
I took acting classes from a guy named Aaron Spicer, who was lovely. And he had worked with Jennifer Lopez and Will Smith and LL Cool J, and a very cool guy from Brooklyn. And I lived with some friends of mine from back home that were out here recording an album. So I lived on an air mattress on basically Pico and Bundy. And there was 5 of us in a 3-bedroom apartment.
Oh God.
And we had camping chairs in our living room. And I think they got the entertainment center from the alley. So those were much different days. And like I said, that only lasted 6 months. And then I went back home to South Carolina to get some things sorted, as they say.
Okay. Why only 6 months? Like, what was the split that made you leave?
I think being 18 and doing the thing where you quit a job before you get another job. And also...
Okay.
I think also drinking 4 nights a week at the Rainbow and Viper Room was not helpful.
No, turns out that'll derail you a bit. Okay.
Yeah, so not on a good path. And I knew, I had always loved movies, and I knew that I wanted to be part of the business somehow, but that acting was not for me. Mm-hmm. So went back to school for a bit. And some other things happened, but then came back out here a few years later, and I've been back out ever since. But I came back out and I went to film school. I went to the Los Angeles Film School.
Okay. What was your focus? Or is there, can you focus on a particular major at this film school?
Mm-hmm. At the time when I went, it was only a certificate program. So you go a year and it's like an elongated summer camp, right? But now they have associate degree programs and bachelor's programs. But I focus on producing and editing. Those are my cup of teas.
Okay. And so real quick, I just want to jump back to those bars that you mentioned where you were not yet 21. Did you have a fake ID?
I did. So I had worked at a gym back home, and there was a young woman who was very smitten with my manager. And she thought if she did me a solid that he would like her more. So she gave me her ID. And the bouncer, the door guy at the Rainbow, I went there so much, he called me by that name. I think her name was Veronica.
Oh my gosh. So he was like, "What's up, Veronica? How are you?"
Yeah.
Would you remember that was your name?
In those days, I don't know what they do now, but they had a scanner and they would scan to see if the license was real. So no problem getting into places.
Wait, so would you remember to answer to Veronica if he called you that? Were you like, "Oh shit, that's me"?
Yeah.
You were good.
We were out there enough. Yeah.
Okay.
That's actually where I first waited tables at the Rainbow. We'll get to that.
We are going to get to that. Oh, I did not. Wow, I'm learning so much about you, Michelle. Okay, so you had your stint. You come back to LA. Now, did you immediately enroll in film school when you came back out here with the intention of, okay, I know I no longer want to act, but I definitely still want to be in film and television? Or was it just, I'll try this?
No, so I was still in South Carolina, and I had been waiting tables at the Olive Garden for a long time.
You are the third person I've interviewed that had to work there. Keep going. We'll get to it.
So, I was really stuck, right? There were some family things going on. And, I was just like, I got to go. And I don't know how to do this because, being young, I was not good at saving money. But, this was in 2006, before everything happened with the financial crisis. And so I applied to the school, I got accepted, and then I got a giant loan. Like they gave a 22-year-old a giant loan.
Of course they did. Of course they did.
Yeah. So, had it been after 2008, it would have been a different story, but I got accepted, I got the money, and I left. My brother got married on my birthday, and the next day I had my car packed and I drove across the country with a friend.
Wow. How long did it take you to get, because South Carolina to California is a hike.
Yeah, I think we did it in, I want to say 5 days because my friend had never been to Vegas. So we stopped in Vegas and did that for a night.
Were you Veronica in Vegas or were you already 21 at that point?
No, I was 20. I had just turned 23.
Okay. So you got to be Michelle in Vegas. That's nice.
But by the time I was 23, I was kind of done with all that. So it started to not be fun at a young age.
Oh, okay. I think you're fun. Okay. So
they're so fun.
Yes, they are. Okay. So you've come to LA now. Did you move in with that friend that you drove here or you drove there from South Carolina with, or what was your living situation? How did you know what to do?
So no, she flew back home. There was a guy I waited tables with that was going to move out here to be an actor. And so the plan was he was going to come a bit later. Long story short, he never showed.
Oh, girl.
I had to get bolt cutters to get into storage. There was I still have that pair of bolt cutters in my car. But he bailed on me. We were going to have a place in Glassell Park. But at the time, my grandfather was in St. Gabriel, which is near Pasadena. So I just stayed with him for a few weeks until I got a roommate from school and then lived in a loft with this guy named Billy for the first 6 months of school behind the Roosevelt in Hollywood. And we would just walk down to school because the school's I-Bar and Sunset, right around Sunset and Vine. So,
okay, I'm going to rewind you real quick. Why did you need bolt cutters for a storage unit? Did you have a storage unit out here that had all your stuff in it?
I forget the details of it. I think it was like his stuff and there was a key in there, or I don't know. I forget. I think he had come out here like once or twice to look at things and had some of his things, but it had been so long. But I still have the bolt cutters just in case.
Wow. Okay. So when you went into his storage unit, was there stuff in there you needed to get out, or was it just to help him out? Or was it like, this dude screwed me?
It was not to help him out. I know that.
Okay. We'll brush past it. Okay, cool. So you live within walking distance of school, so it was a certificate program and it was just 1 year?
Yes.
Okay. So you get a massive loan for that year. You're in school all the time. Then what happens when you graduate?
Mind you, I did try and still wait tables at the Olive Garden in Westwood.
Oh my God. Oh, it's such a specific name.
In 3 different states.
You are a loyalist. We're going to get into that. Wait, did you actually end up doing it, or you just tried to do it?
I did for maybe like a month or so, but the schedule of school was so hard.
Yeah.
So Yeah.
Okay, so you graduate school and then are you moving directly on to being on set, or what was your transition?
Yeah, so I worked on a lot of shorts and a lot of music videos, like low budget, no name band music videos when I got out of school. And one of the young women, so our school there, you get to know the different classes. And this woman who had been like 6 months ahead of me, Hannah Lux Davis, who is a prolific, amazing music video director now, and like moving into all sorts of other things. She's worked with Nicki Minaj, Ariana Grande, like she was always hustling. So I worked on some of her music videos, like $100 a day. And she was just so sweet. We did this one out in Vasquez Rocks where some people were throwing up from the heat. Yeah. And she was actually the one that had recommended me for my first official TV gig as a set production assistant. So that was Desperate Housewives.
Okay. So she was ahead of you in school. So you met her on campus, or how did you get, oh, you did.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so that transitions you into film and TV. And then, so where are you? I know you're still working in film and television. And do you see yourself doing that for the long haul? Like as far as staying in entertainment, or do you, are you kind of sick of it because it's like such a hustle? Are there aspects of it that you want to stick out, or are you just kind of like, I'm not sure? Or is this question trappy and you don't want to answer this? You can shake your head yes or no.
No, I love so many things about it. I'm so happy to spill the tea on some things that I do not love about it.
You're going to get there too.
No, it's, I think with the way things are in the world right now, I want to do more, in the sense of service. And so we'll see what happens with that. A lot of companies are developing more programs and more community-based initiatives. So we'll see what happens. I've learned to not count anything out because, I have gotten some of the things that I have asked for, and they turn out to not be the thing that I really need.
That's so profound. Okay. If y'all can't tell, Michelle's one of my like wisest friends that drops gems all the time. So that will be one of many. Now I've set the bar too high. So
real high.
Yeah. Okay. So now you're still in Los Angeles and you, see, I'm trying not to,
would you like to hear about the first feature film I worked on?
I would. We are going to get there in the next section. Okay. So I feel like we've introduced you. Okay. That was Michelle. So we hope you enjoyed your apps. We're going to move on to the entrees after a quick break. We're back, and now it's time to move on to the entrees because you've had your salads and your nachos, and this is a super speed round of questions, but feel free to tell stories that, jump off out of these questions because this is your time to shine. Okay. What was your first job ever? I
worked at a pizza place in the food court of a one-story mall.
Oh, a one-story mall. Okay.
One-story mall, living large in the city.
Okay. Now I don't think I've talked to anyone that's worked at a food court. So what is uniquely terrible or uniquely awesome about food court work?
Oh, this is the late 90s. I'm super dating myself. And, everything pre-social media, it's just really present, really bored. Christmas time is the worst because you have all that music and then you have the mall rats. But the guy I worked for was amazing and such a good person. He was a first generation Italian guy from Jersey. In the pizza, I'm spoiled. Like I still have dreams about eating that pizza.
Was it actually really good?
It was so good.
Okay.
It was so good. Yeah. So I worked there off and on for 4 years and he became like a surrogate uncle. And I was just such a mess. I keep saying that, but very, very volatile and opinionated and having panic attacks.
Oof.
Like, the first time I got fired, the first time I got fired was because he had family in town and I got last minute tickets to go see Kiss. And I'm 15. So I go to the concert.
Obviously.
And he fired me. But then we did that dance back and forth for a long time.
Okay. So you got fired and then rehired?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love that. Okay. So we're going to get into that We'll get there in a second. Okay. So how many customer service jobs have you had?
Ooh,
We can count them.
Including like production assistant jobs or just like restaurants?
So I would include production assistants because you're dealing with so much chaos. But if that's going to put you in a tricky position, then let's just count.
Let's see. Okay. Pizza, Outback
Steakhouse, correct?
Outback Steakhouse.
Okay.
Give it some flair.
Everyone should watch Waiting immediately who's listening to this podcast. If you haven't seen it, it is too real. One of Ryan Reynolds'
Be nice
first.
to your servers. That's all I'm saying.
Hello. And we've got Olive Garden. You haven't said that yet, but we're at
Olive Garden, some Mongolian fanfare in Montana.
I don't know about that.
Texas Roadhouse.
Girl.
Oh.
So we're at 5.
And then, I mean, probably at least 15. I'm going to go with 15 with the shows.
Okay.
Yeah. I worked at a shoe store in the mall also.
So you were really loyal to the mall experience. I feel like that had a lot to do with raising you. Because
where else is a 16-year-old going to go?
I mean, I guess I went to restaurants like nearby in my town, but my sister worked at the mall. Like most of my friends worked at the mall. Like that's where things happened. And also pre-social media, I mean, that was your social life. The mall was a great place. Okay. So I want to go back to one thing though, really quickly. Did you find the difference between or were there significant differences between working at a food court versus like a standalone Outback Steakhouse or Olive Garden, or was it kind of like food service is food service is food service? Because for me, the thought of working in a food court, I'm like, I just don't think I could deal with that small confined space and that I don't know. I have a picture in my head.
I think it was the food, the pizza place was actually pretty good because of the guy that owned it, because he would tell people to fuck off in a nice way. He's like, I don't need your business. You can go, The only downside to that was that he had cameras that actually also had audio recording.
Oh, shit.
And so as a young person chatting with your coworkers, there may be some stories you're telling that you don't want your nice Catholic boss to hear about.
Okay. Did that happen to you, Michelle?
It sure did.
Okay.
It sure did. Okay. What a lesson I learned.
How did you find out that there was audio recording? Did he come to you with some hot facts?
Because yes, we had a nice sit down.
Were you fired after that too?
No, it was like a very paternal kind of, look, just so you know, maybe there are things you don't want to be discussing. And maybe also as a young lady, maybe these are some things you want to consider.
Oh, he was nice.
He was so nice. I could not look him in the eye for probably a week.
Oh, yeah, I would have quit. I would have been like, well, thank you so much for this lesson. I'm dead. All right, back to the list of questions. What was your favorite job of all of the customer service jobs you've had? Take your time.
I would have to say when I worked at Gold's Gym in Venice when I was 18 and out here for that 6 months. That was really fun. Having like Kobe Bryant, rest in peace, The Rock, all of these, big time athletes and celebrities would come down there and be like, can you, hang on to my Gucci sunglasses? Can you hang on to these things? And that was really fun. But my managers did not like me smoking Marlboro Lights out front. So I had to go to the back to do that.
Okay. They weren't into you smoking in front of a gym? What assholes?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Okay. What was your least favorite of all of the customer service jobs you had?
Oh, I think it was a family-owned restaurant in my hometown. I don't want to say the name of it.
Sure.
The management at the time, they were just not good people. And that was one of the handful of jobs that I walked out on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Are you comfortable telling that story of walking out?
I don't remember. It was just, being 16, 18, something like that, self-righteous. You're like, this is bullshit, and I'm sick of this, and you're just like, fuck it, I don't need this job, and just quit,
Good for you.
That's the luxury of what you can do when you live at home with your mom.
Hello. So real. Okay. What's the weirdest thing you've been asked to do whilst on the clock?
I think it would be a Teamster giving me a big gulp full of beer to give to one of the above the line people.
Okay.
In the middle of the day.
Uh-huh. So I'm just going to, we should probably just clarify as vaguely as possible what above the line could mean. I'm not trying to get you into trouble by revealing. Right. So what does above the line, what could that mean on set?
It could mean cast. It could mean producer. It could mean director.
Okay.
studio executive, whoever.
So people that, have some important influence on the set experience for all involved.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Just
Yes.
wanted to clarify what that meant. Okay, here we go. That would be the weirdest. Okay. What is an incident that made either a customer or a client ask to speak to your manager or your boss at some point whilst you were working? You don't have to list just one.
It's so hard.
Take your time.
Because usually, I can sweet talk almost anyone,
It's
right?
that Southern charm.
So, what a gift. What a gift. So I can't really pinpoint that. I've had more of the experience of having the confrontation with my own manager.
Oh, well, care to share one of those stories? Not the
That's
pizza
what I
guy,
get
because
to
he's
bring to
nice.
the table.
Yeah, bring that
Yes.
to the table.
I was working on a show in a low-level assistant position where we were not given full staff, and I was doing more than my position required without title or a pay raise, which both I had asked about. And this is a very fancy show. This is not low budget. This is very fancy.
Mm-hmm. And
one of my supervisors, workaholic, always trying to prove things, always trying to be one of the guys. Look, if you're an assistant in these kind of things, you're working 12 to 14 hours a day.
Minimum.
Happy to be there. I hustled so hard to get some of these jobs. But if I'm not doing something, I want to go home and sleep. I'm exhausted because in Los Angeles, while you're working on these shows, traffic is horrendous. And depending on where you live and where you're shooting, especially if you're an assistant, I drove around 5 hours a day as part of some of my assistant jobs in Los Angeles. So I was exhausted. And she got to be really kind of condescending. And my uncle had passed away unexpectedly. And so I let them know, I'm going to need some time off. But I'll come in and I'll bring the credit card for the office that we're going to go buy supplies with, and someone else can take care of it. And I got a text asking me if I could stop by Staples on my way in, dropping off the card to pick up something.
I will die.
Yeah.
The audacity.
Yeah. But, like a nice introvert, we all have our buttons and we all have our tipping point. And there's something in me that broke. And so when I got into that office, I said, we need to have a conversation. So I don't appreciate how condescending you have been. And, she goes, well, I don't think you appreciate the job. And I was like, oh, you want to talk about my work ethic? And it just, got to be really heated. And I went back to my car and I thought, I got to go smooth this out. Right? Because you want to get hired again on something, and it really matters what some of these people think. And so I had smoothed it out enough, but I did not get asked back to the show because also they wanted me to work a lot of Saturdays. But it's like, if you're not paying me a ton extra and I'm not getting a title bump, I'm not doing extra work. You guys can do it, So I was not asked back to the show, but I don't care. It was worth it, because don't come in here and ask me to go get some paper when my uncle died. Get out of my face.
It's my favorite thing you say. Yeah, well, I think that's sort of the thing that people don't understand when you're an assistant of any kind, but especially when you're a PA, whether it's post or like on set or a production, any of those various jobs. There's so many people hungry and waiting in line behind you, thinking that if they tolerate unacceptable treatment, that they will then eventually get seen as the hard worker, the hero, the bumped up whatever. And it's like, well, unless you're a white man, good luck. I mean, anyway, separate issue. Okay.
Do you want to hear something amazing, though?
Yeah, obviously.
So later I went to work at a place where they put together many shows. I'm not going to name names, but on one of the many shows they were doing, this person was a supervisor on one of them, who then got fired because she was not good at her job. And I was not sad to hear about it.
When you say this person, you mean the woman that you confronted and said, you've been sweet karma in real time. It's my favorite thing. So on the heels of that, can you tell that you had mentioned earlier that you were going to tell the story of the very first, I guess, film you had worked on? You were like, do you want to hear that story? Yes. Now we want to hear that story.
I had worked on music videos and shorts. And then the first movie I got to work on was a low budget film starring Mr. Ray Liotta.
Hey, Ray.
With Andy Garcia and Armand Asante guest starring Isa Morales. So
he real pretty.
He was shirtless in most of that movie. It was not an unfun time to be on set.
Hello.
So we shot most of that in LA. It was my first movie. I was a set production assistant, and I was so happy to be there. But our assistant directors that I was working under were screamers. And I'm not talking about someone who's talking loud and aggressive. I'm talking about straight up screaming in your face. So that team got fired. And then another team of directors came in.
The screaming team got fired, right? The team.
Yeah,
Okay.
screaming team got fired. Another team got hired. And then we shot in Tijuana for 2 weeks.
Hello.
Yes. So that was a real challenge. We were at a real brothel shooting.
Come on.
Yeah, they had only redressed one of the rooms that they were shooting in. And so the crew, I know.
Oh, if you could see my face right now. Oh,
I don't think I've told you this. But yeah, so they redressed one room, and, the rest of the crew was spread out in other rooms, and they had gear. And I saw people sitting on the beds. I'm like, get off of that bed. What are you doing? God. That's like not been redressed. And I had to be like, I got to get out of here. Like, I will be outside. The energy was too much.
Oh,
right?
It's toxic. Wait, when you say redress, can you explain to the audience? I know what that is, but can you explain to them what that means and why it's so disgusting that particularly at a brothel to have not redressed is so specific?
Yeah, meaning you take all of the original furniture, tapestries, what have you, out of that room, and you put it in with clean, new, functioning for the scene pieces. So these are sanitized, clean things. The other rooms, regular brothel business.
My God. And they chose not to redress, and they're shooting in there. Oh God, I cannot imagine. Yeah. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So that was your first. So what happened? So was it better in Tijuana with this new team?
To a degree, but this is one of the other shows I also got fired from.
Best guest ever. I love it.
So, as happy I was to be there, a lot of the other crew members were like, this is the worst show I've ever worked on. And it wasn't until later that I got on real professional things. And I'm like, oh, as a set PA, I don't have to put up pop-up tents. Like, you have a locations department to handle this. You have craft service. You have it it's really dialed in. So it was a hot mess. But we were shooting on a street one day, and we had it locked off, meaning coned off, and we had security because we were shooting in a house. And so neighborhood people could walk through, no big problem. And I was sitting on the back of one of the equipment trucks with the tailgate lowered, talking to some people. And this guy comes walking down the street looking like real fucked up. You're like, oh, is he okay? What's up? And he ended up throwing up blood 3 feet in front of me.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was, and the problem had been before this, the Teamsters had been complaining, we don't have enough security. We don't have enough security. We need more security. And here comes this guy who threw up blood on tailgate. And it just it's disgusting. It's scary. It's enraging. And we were all watching dailies in one of the big conference rooms one night, most of the crew. And so I had told our first assistant director about this. And she was like, well, you really need to go talk to one of the producers about it. So one of the guys finally, I know, yes.
She set you up. She set you up. That sucks.
So this guy had I think at the time, the JLo tinted aviators were still a thing,
sure,
right?
Sure.
So he had on those. He had on lots of gross rings.
Ew,
he was
man.
I can't. Right. This is not someone that still works in the business. And if he does, it's straight to VOD.
Hello.
Right, whatever.
People, audience who doesn't work in the industry, that was a huge insult, what Michelle just said. Keep going.
So I go and I tell him what happened, and he kind of feigns concern. I was like, oh, okay, well, thanks for telling us. And so I go back to my chair and whatever, I'm hanging out. And then he has one of his guys come over and be like, oh, he wants to talk to you again. I'm like, ugh. This dude looked me in the face and said, well, after more thought, it's we're working in one of the most dangerous cities in North America. What did you expect?
I expected more security for that reason. Are you kidding me? So what'd you say to that? I
was just like, okay, because sometimes when I'm on fire with that kind of stuff, I can't say anything. Right. Because there's nothing I could say. But the next day we were having lunch, the crew. So it's 8 people. And our line producer comes out. Hey guys, so these are the things we're working on getting for you in the hotel. It's your amenities, and these are what's going on with the shoot, blah, blah, blah. Does anyone have any questions? And I'm in the back. Mind you, I'm 24, right? First real big movie, Ray Liotta. And I raise my hand and go, yeah, when are we getting more security?
That a girl.
Everyone's head just turned. So we finished the shoot in Tijuana. We had yet another assistant director team change, and I did not make it through that one. The producers did not like the questions I was asking, and I was so devastated when I found out, because it was like getting fired, and I had put so much into that and was so heartbroken. But I would have called him out again any other time.
That a girl. Can you explain to the audience? So is it common to have a team change that often on a shoot?
No.
Yeah.
This is low budget. Like, the director we had was really good. He was young, but when you're doing, because it was also non-union, so these are not DGA people. And as you know, because of social media and the way things are now, like, you can't get away with things anymore, right? Like, people have to be accountable.
Yay.
But this was 2007, right? I don't know when it was 2007, 2008.
2008 is when the writer's strike happened. 2009, the economy crashed.
Yeah. So, people were, especially then, happy to have a job, because at that time, Netflix was not a thing. The content being produced was your main primetime networks and your studio things. So, happy to have a job, but non-union, no, thank you. No, thank you. And I worked one of the other jobs. I worked a day on a reality TV show called A Shot at Love 2 with Tila Tequila. And I was like, I will never do reality again. And I never did. Because I can't take, after you're on like a professional shoot, I can't take things not being set up well. It's just a waste of people's time. You're wasting people's time and their energy. That's a lot of work that goes into it.
Can you give me an example of a difference between a professional set experience, like a small anecdote that was handled very differently in reality TV?
I think it's just really the scheduling. It's the scheduling of, here's what we're doing. We got it dialed in. Let's go do it. And as a set production assistant and assistant directors, my job a lot of the times was, we're kind of, I don't want to say babysitting actors, but because time is money, you have to know where everyone is. So if your top talent on the show is going to go over to craft service, you need to know that they're not wandering back to their trailer and it's another 20 minutes before you can get them to set, because if they're lit and ready to shoot, we got to go, and nobody has time to be like looking for where the cast went.
And in reality TV, that was the case. It was like, where is so-and-so?
Oh yeah. Just a mess. Everyone running around.
Ugh. Yeah. Thanks. No, thanks. Yeah. What was the last straw that got you out of the last restaurant job that you had? Or a last straw for a restaurant job?
I don't know. I mean, by the time I was done, this was right before I applied for film school. And maybe I'd already gotten in, but I was working at the Olive Garden in South Carolina and just over it, right? Like, I worked with some fun people, but man, you talk about free refills and just people wanting to have like a fancy night out. We would take smoke breaks in the bathroom, the employee bathroom, and just not care. I got to the point where people would ask me for like their 5th boat of Alfredo sauce, and I would lick the spoon and then put it in there. I just don't care. Because it's also one of those states where you're getting paid $2.13 an hour, so you don't get a check and you're living off tips, and $2 is not going to do anything for you.
Well, and also on the unlimited, it's like you've done the work of as if that bill should be $500, but the bill is $29.99 because that's the deal. So if you get $2, woot, that was a generous tip, even though it's less than 10%. That's crazy. And Ohio is a $2.13 an hour state. So I don't
know how they pull it. It should be illegal.
I agree. That's what I think a lot of people don't understand. That's why when people bring it up, I reemphasize it. So if y'all have been listening to these episodes, you've heard me say it before, but it is crazy that you're not given minimum wage working at a restaurant in a lot of states. Yeah. Okay. How many bodily fluids have been on you whilst you were on the clock? Well, we've established blood in Tijuana, but anything else?
Yeah, almost. No, I don't think so. I mean, I think I spilled more food on people than...
On purpose or on accident?
No, on accident, but a boat of marinara sauce on someone is not too fun.
Ooh, and hot. And oof. What would make you accidentally spill? You would trip?
It only happened a couple of times, but yeah.
More than 0 though, Michelle.
I think not caring is probably not helpful.
That is a dangerous weapon if only most employees understood. As soon as you're detached, you are violent. That's it. Yeah. Okay. Do you tip?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. How much?
For sure, 20%.
Okay. What if the service is bad?
15. I can't not,
Yeah.
Especially in LA, like rent is high. people have to pay their bills.
Now, how would you, devil's advocate question, how would you argue, do you think it's fair that it's your responsibility to, cover my rent as the employee? Or do you think that the business itself should be responsible for that?
I think being a human being should make you compassionate to the problems that exist in the world. So get on board or stay the fuck home.
And that's the soundbite for this episode. That was awesome. I didn't even tell her to say that, y'all. She really meant that. Oh, I got good friends.
Yeah.
Okay. In the times when you were working in a tipped position, have you ever been stiffed?
Oh, yeah.
For attitude or what?
People leave change.
Girl, I cannot. God bless.
Throw it at the wall.
I mean, God bless. Hi, Andrea. This is for you. My friend Andrea was saying how she was trying over and over again to explain to her mother why leaving change is so insulting. And I was trying to explain to her, like, from older people, like if the older demographic leaves change, but they also leave some cash, for whatever reason, I don't get insulted when you're like above a certain age, because I think it's an existing mentality. But don't you dare be in your 20s, 30s, 40s, or 50s and slap down 2 quarters and think that you are not promptly being handed those 2 quarters right back to yourself. Like, no, thank you. No, thank you. Yeah. Okay. So that was how you consider that being stiffed, is having change left?
Yeah. But also people just not paying. Yeah, of course. You can't get away from it.
So did you ever have anybody walk out on a bill when you were working there or in any of those jobs?
Maybe, but nothing that I can really think of where, because it's because I worked at mostly chain places. You're not responsible for it. So.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. So I've interviewed some people that in some jobs I've personally had, we have to cover the bill if somebody walks out.
Fuck those places.
Yeah, I know, right? Okay. Yeah. Do you ever not tip? Like ever, ever, ever?
No way.
Like, wow. Okay. Michelle's extremely generous. She's an anomaly. Yeah. Were you ever fired from a customer service job that was not the pizza place and not working on set? Was there like a chain restaurant that you were fired from that you can remember?
I walked out. I was a hostess at a Charlie's. I walked out.
Oh, Charlie's? Was that what you said? I love it. We have an O'Charlie's in my town. It's like one of the only restaurants here. I love that so much.
Yeah, as a young person, the chicken tenders were a big night out with your high school friends.
Hell yeah, they were. Get that honey mustard and some ranch shit for your fries.
Yeah. Where are my late 90s memes with chicken tenders?
Hello. So wait, you walked out of a hostess job?
Oh, yeah.
What?
I'm trying to think. I probably quit, got fired, or walked out on at least 5 or 6 jobs.
So impressive. Okay.
My mom was worried about me going into the entertainment business.
Gee, I wonder.
I had such a strong work ethic on my track.
I think you do. See, I would disagree with that interpretation of you. I think you have a strong work ethic, but I think your bullshit meter is like, if most people can tolerate 100, you can handle 5. And so other people can ride out to get to the 100, and as soon as you smell it, you're like, oh, not today, sir. So it's a good
thing. Also, I'll clarify, walking out and quitting and getting fired on most of these jobs, I was living at home, right? I had the privilege of being able to do so.
And you were in your teens or early 20s, and it's like, we're all idiots. Our frontal lobe hasn't developed at that point. So we're just like, this is okay. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Can you think of an example of the worst customer you ever interacted with, or someone that sticks out as like a shitty customer in general?
I remember one incident in the pizza place. There was a guy being so rude that my boss came out and he said, "This is my little sister. How dare you treat her like this? Blah, 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 blah." And he shooed him away. But I was a little shocked that this guy was being so awful, and I didn't know how to handle it. And then Joe came out and saved the day.
Bless him. You're a nice uncle. Okay.
Yeah, he would schedule me Monday nights specifically, in addition to other nights, so we could talk about The Sopranos, because he loved that show so much, being an Italian. And then his cousin, who lived in New York, later in the show had a major arc as Carmela's love interest, Federico Castellucciano. Aww. And I eventually got to meet him, and we all just talked about how great The Sopranos were.
Oh, I love that so much. You were really you were folded into that Italian family, it sounds like. Like you were really...
Totally. Yeah, I would work at his Catholic church doing the festivals and help him and his wife. And, it'd be exposure for the business. And I would always tell him, like, your food is so good, you need to open a restaurant. And today he has a restaurant. He's at it for many years now, and it is delightful and wonderful. It's called Fratelli's in Fort Mill. If anybody's ever out in South Carolina, go get some pizza.
Fratelli's in Fort Mill. How sweet. And he's still alive and kicking. Like, he's still...
Yeah. I mean, he was really young when he started, so he might be in his early 50s. And
in my head, in the story, he was in his early 50s. So no wonder he was able to tolerate your nonsense, because he was in his 20s and he's like, oh, I'm the same, but I can't act like I'm the same. Oh, that's awesome. Okay. So as far as all of your sort of set experiences, now you mentioned earlier you were willing to spill some tea. So I know a lot of the story, so I have to be careful. I can't ask the questions. So this is going to make me sound like a terrible interviewer, but I have to just be careful. So is there any tea that you'd be willing to spill?
Sure. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Of course.
Okay.
I will say, when I listened, because I'm a big fan of your show, that your recent interview with Jaya, when she was talking about a certain celebrity who gave her such a hard time that she cried and mentioned it, I think I was like, oh, I wonder if it's so-and-so. And then she mentioned the show. And I was like, oh, of course it's Eva Longoria.
Thank you, because I'm like, I can't say it. And I've gotten so many emails of like, hey, who was that she was saying? And I was like, I can't tell you because she asked me not to. But now
I'm surprised there wasn't more people that emailed you saying, hey, I know who it was.
Yeah, well, so can you explain why you personally know that she is a difficult character?
So I will say this. It was a long time ago. I think people are capable of change. She's a mother now. She may be a different person. I don't know. But at the time in 2000, I'm going to go with 2008, I had worked on, this was after the writer's strike. I was on the show for 6 weeks, finishing up the season as a set PA. And it was very intimidating. It was the first real TV show I had worked on. And at the time, massive hit, right? I was not the target audience. I had never watched it, but you knew it was a massive hit.
Did you say the name of the show? I don't think you did in this run. Are you able to say it? If you don't want to say it.
Desperate Housewives.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead. So massive hit, but you were not the demo.
Not the demo. So I get there, very intimidating. And they eventually had me on what's called first team, where you are tending to the main actors, getting food or, whatever. And so, look, I understand the plight of, because I think some actors get a lot of shit of like, oh, this is the deal you signed up for. And so you have to take the pictures and do all the, no. And especially like if you're at work, sometimes these crews can be 100, 200 people. And that's a lot of people that you have to engage with all day, every day.
Whilst you're trying to stay in character and remember your lines and remember how importantly expensive the production is. Like, I'm with you on that.
Yeah. And I mean, so many actors, listen to a lot of interviews with a lot of talent. And a lot of people have said, even though they were doing well, they were still worried it was the last job they were ever going to have.
Yep.
Right. So it's kind of a known thing that when you're working on a show, you're not chatting up the talent, right? If they want to say hello, it's not, don't look at them. That's not look, there are a handful of crazy people like that, but it's, I'm not going to engage with you and try and get personal with you because this is not part of the deal. So they can be, a little guarded, right? Especially if been on a show for many years and then you have new crew in, you're a little guarded. And all the other ladies were so nice. But there was one time, like I hadn't been on there maybe a week or something, and she asked me to get her some food. And then I asked one of the assistant directors, like, where am I supposed to take this? And he said, oh, just put her in her chair. She's rehearsing. And later she saw me and she said something like, when I ask for something, I want it in my hand. I'm like, oh, okay. Right. And then another time I was in the van with her, taking her up to the stage. They're ready to shoot. And I opened the door for her in the van and she's just like sipping on her drink. I'm there like a jackass with the door open,
I can't.
She finally gets out and we're walking to the stage. And of course I'm going to go open the door for her, but it was almost like a look of like, oh, are you going to get that? Are you going to get that door? And I'm like,
bitch.
So, I will say not appropriate behavior, certainly not the worst person in the world. Right. But not welcoming, and then somebody from the camera department was asking me how it was going and how people were treating me. And I was like, everyone's treating me pretty good mostly. And I was not going to, but they already knew who was giving me a hard time, so not a horrible human being. But when you got kids, like, new, it's not your job to like be the welcome wagon, but just be like a decent person. Right.
Yeah. You weren't asking for fireworks and backflips. You were just asking for like acknowledgement of your humanity, which is real. But I've heard not just you two talking about her not being great. So also she's been mean to my friends. So, seek forgiveness or change your behavior. Okay, cool. So that was a little bit of tea about one job. Now you worked on the ever popular series, and are you able to spill some tea about, because I have heard some things about that set.
Yes. I day played on that show for a while as a set production assistant.
What does day play mean?
Meaning you're not staff, but you come in when they have bigger days and they need more help wrangling stuff. I will say it was one of the coolest sets I've ever seen because of the lab that they work in. That was very cool. I did not know anything about it going into it. What I soon learned was that certain person could hold the set hostage, could change the energy in the room however he wanted. And I never had any personal interaction with him. But I remember being on set one day and like he had to go take a phone call and we were waiting for like 45 minutes or something. And just like the tension, right? It's like so much tension. This was actually the show that I had a breakdown on when I was going home one night, crying in my car, going, what am I doing with my life? How am I going to have a life if I'm working? Because at that time I wanted to go DGA and be an assistant director. And 16, 17-hour days constitutionally were not physically good for me. Some people can do it and amazing, right? But it was not for me. But after I had stopped working as set PA, I had heard more stories about that show. One being that he got like over 50 assistant directors fired.
Come on.
Yeah. Probably one of the most insane stories I've ever heard working in this business is that an assistant got fired because he, quote, sloppily ate an orange in front of him.
I will die. What? Like,
Then he became the guy of like, oh yeah, I'm the orange guy, right? Like that story has spread wide.
I love that he embraced it. And he was like, oh yeah, I'm the dude that ate an orange and lost my livelihood. Oh, yeah. It's so fickle. That's so ridiculous. Okay.
Yeah. But the other, then you had other cast members that were amazing, right? So it's the thing of you have it because it's like, why are people, because everyone's getting called out, right? You have the Me Too movement, you have people saying racist remarks, you have people just straight up being assholes, and people are getting called out because it is time to change on every single level how we operate as a society, and especially in this business, because it is a business, right? Like people that want to get into film and TV, there is the idealistic young version of, want to connect people and move them and make them feel not alone and all these beautiful things. At the end of the day, oh boy, that bottom line is the to-do, right? So if you have a show I think the Grey's Anatomy franchise has made ABC Disney like $3 billion.
Billion with a B. So
when Ellen Pompeo came out and they did that article about her, she's like the highest paid TV actress now, because she goes, yeah, I had to learn that I'm allowed to ask for my part. If this is what we're making for them, then it's time, especially for women, to get what's yours. And Reese Witherspoon talking to, because she has her clothing line and her book club. And she goes, nobody's telling George Clooney he shouldn't be selling tequila.
Come on.
So ladies, let's do it.
Oh, I love that. God, you're giving me... See, guys, so many wisdom-filled gems. It's my favorite. Okay. Well, we're going to get into dessert, but is that all the tea? Do you have any more tea? I want to talk about my favorite set of yours and the good stuff, because you told me some like lovely things that happened on that set. But is there any tea that you're willing to spill from any other sets?
No, I can think about like really fun moments and really awkward moments.
Okay, we'll do that in dessert because I feel like those are good things. Okay. Well, anything else you want to tell us about your restaurant experiences or anything? Because we're going to move into dessert now. If you're...
Be nice to your servers because they will spit in your food.
Okay, well, you're going to give us advice in a minute. That's amazing, but that's facts. Okay, now on to the good stuff. We hope you save room for dessert. Okay, we're back with dessert. Michelle, what was the nicest thing a customer has done for you while you were working? And if you can't think of a customer, we can make this a two-parter that either, yes, a customer and also somebody on a set, or maybe just somebody on a set, because I know that's more recent for you.
I can't.
This is literally the hardest question for everyone on the show. And that makes me sad as fuck.
Because I think, after being in customer service and doing that for so long, you're having a good day if people just aren't being awful to you.
Oh my God. That's too real. It's too real, Michelle. It's too real. And yes, hardcore facts.
I appreciate people not being awful. Thank you so much.
Okay, so just bare minimum.
I got a high bar.
you didn't leave any pennies in my book, and also you didn't literally take a dump on me. Great.
Right.
What's the best lesson that you have personally learned? Not advice you would give, but a lesson you learned either whilst at a restaurant job or on set or both that shifted something in you and you were like, oh shit, I learned this as a direct result of working in this industry.
Me personally, I've learned that I'm much more capable than I ever gave myself credit for.
I love that.
And to not, I think it's the same with relationships, not believe that this is the last job, the last relationship, the only options I have for success or happiness, because there is always more.
I love that. Wow. Okay. What's the, can you think of the best customer or the best client or the best actor, or someone that that stands out, that a customer that you were like, oh, this person said this thing to me and it always stuck with me, or, oh, this, this crew member said this to me, or this talent said this to me?
Well, that's a two-parter. One, when I worked on Desperate Housewives, the UPM on there told me, I think, some law that they had about driving. If you work over a certain many hours a day, by law, the production company either owes you a hotel or a taxi ride home, because so many people in the business, enough people have died driving on the way home because they're exhausted, right? Because if you're on a TV show, you're working 8 months, you're doing 14 to 16 hours a day, and people die. And that was later came in really handy because I ended up doing something for free. It was a director. She had done some movie that I just absolutely had loved. And I was so excited to work on it. But it was coming into 17 hours and not going well. And I just go, you know what? None of this is worth my health.
Never.
So I'm going home, guys. I'm going home. You're not keeping me. I have an hour drive home. This is enough. And it's just not worth it.
Okay. So that was the UPM, what does UPM mean for people not in
Unit production manager.
And how high up are they on the above the line?
I don't know if maybe they're above the line. No, they're not. They should be, because they're managing everything.
Thank you. I wanted you to say that. I'm so manipulative.
I'm such a pro guild and union person.
Same.
Because without it, people that work in production, it's like a glorified circus, right? But you have people working so hard and they're not seeing their families and they're making all of this magical stuff happen.
Yep.
And they would just be extorted if it were not for the unions and the guilds taking care of them and getting their benefits and having if you go over these amount of hours, you have to pay double time. People's time is not for free anymore. Go fuck yourself.
I don't know which line to pull for the episode because there's too many. I totally agree with that. And that's why I wanted you to explain kind of, and they essentially, the UPM pulling you aside and saying that to you, the UPM would have been your boss's boss's boss, right? So that isn't someone that ever really had to interact with you, right? Or am I reaching?
No, typically not.
Yeah.
Typically not. They don't, they can say hello, but you're not, you're going to give them a call sheet and call it a day.
Yeah. So the fact that person pulled you aside to let you know this information that ended up feeding your safety later is huge. It shouldn't be huge, but it is huge. Okay. What's one piece of advice that you would give to customers interacting with customer service workers? Not on set. Think specifically restaurant, because I'm going to follow it up with a different question.
Know what you want after looking at the menu for half an hour.
Okay. And
just be nice and learn to ask for things together instead of having me go on 5 different treasure hunts.
I agree. What is advice that you would give to front of the camera talent that is interacting with crew and specifically with PAs?
Just be like Steve Carell.
Oh, what a fantastic transition. You read my mind because we were going to talk about The Office. Please tell everyone about how lovely he is and what your experience was, please.
He is the loveliest person, right? So even if he was not a famous actor, beloved by many, if he was your next door neighbor, you would be like, you should meet my next door neighbor. What a nice guy. Like, that is Steve Carell, right? Very thoughtful. You know, the lead of a show is what sets the tone, right? And he was just so delightful, so thoughtful, so kind, so prepared, and made everyone's job super easy.
Are you willing to tell the story of, because I believe you were working on set when his tenure was ending with the show, correct?
Yes, I worked the 7th season, his last season, and they had me, I was working in post-production as the PA, and so I actually shot his going away party that they did directly after his last scene, but I shot footage of him leaving set for the last time. Super emotional, right? And most of the people on that crew had been there since the beginning. So it was really a family and everyone had known each other, and I had only been there a short time. But yeah, really special. They had a really good family over there.
Okay. And so did you ever interact with him directly?
I did, not so much as like, we're going to talk about our day, but he was the kind of guy that would hold the door open for hair and makeup that had their hands full, help people get off the van if they had stuff, just a really polite person who did not let anything go to his head. And he loved what he did. I'm sure he still loves what he's doing, but it was the best. Yeah.
There's a lot of, and if you can't speak to this, just say you can't. There's, rumors online that he left because of a contract issue. Do you know why he chose to leave The Office? This has nothing to do with this.
I have no idea, but I know it's pretty standard when actors sign on to a series, it's usually a seven season deal, right? And so if that's up and you have other interests or you have a family, you want to go explore that. So who knows? I don't know, but maybe it was just time for him to move on. So,
that's what I had heard. Okay, cool.
But we had so many fun guest stars ramping up to the end of his season. And Will Ferrell came on and he was delightful. And Timothy Oliphant was there and I spilled my lunch in front of him. So
I love him.
Never going to be the cool kid. I was like, let me just walk away quickly now.
Okay. So it was a great set. Would you say that's one of your favorite sets that you worked on?
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's
what I thought. And House, because that was one of the few shows that I was obsessed with. I was a bigger House fan than The Office fan. And I ended up in an elevator with Hugh Laurie one day. And he was just the nicest person. And he, I'd only been on that show a short time, but I had a friend that was on there for many seasons. And Hugh was gave out the best end of wrap crew gifts and was super generous. And yeah, those are the kind of people you want starring on your show. Because like I said, when you have leads that are not happy people, man, it's real hard going to work. And it doesn't matter if it is the fanciest thing in the world, because that novelty will run off real quick when people are awful.
Yeah, because it sets the energy of what you have to walk into every day for 17 hours a day, which is your whole life. You see the crew and you see the cast more than you see your family when you're working on a show. Yeah. Okay, Michelle, so you've spilled the tea about, some negative celebrity experiences. And since you just told us how lovely Steve Carell is there any other celebrity or anything you can think of that you want to spill the tea about that was great? A positive tea spilling sesh?
Yeah, so I think, let me think. So the first feature that I worked on, the one with Ray Liotta that ended up going to Tijuana, I failed to mention that the amazing Danny Trejo was also in that movie.
Oh, he's a love.
Yes, he should be the official patron saint of Los Angeles.
Oh, that's so real. He should be. Why do you feel that way? Because
he's amazing. Born and raised in LA. Everyone loves him. He's so generous and kind. But we were all, there was a bunch of us from the crew in the lobby of the hotel in Tijuana. And so everyone's just chit-chatting, kind of hanging out. And he goes, hey, he said, do you want to help me? Like, let's go order some stuff from the restaurant and bring it out for people to snack on. I was like, oh yeah, cool, whatever, I'll help you. And then just he and I ended up sitting down and having dinner.
Oh, I love that.
So he was telling me all these amazing stories about Johnny Depp and Antonio Banderas. Really lovely. And then also he is really known in the sobriety community. I'm not breaking his anonymity. He speaks publicly about this. He's, I think, done interviews about it in the trades, but he's been sober probably 50 years or something. And so he was talking about his work in recovery. And I know some people also in those kinds of programs and sharing stories. And then he was just talking about, you know, him being so grateful for things. And he said, you know, any kind of ego that I ever had about something, whether it was like the seat on the flight was not as good as so-and-so's or, you know, whatever it is, because you know how that can be really heavy-handed in this business. He said, you know, I just think about my dad that tarred roofs for a living, and to look and see how far I'd come and just be incredibly grateful, you know. And he said that with all earnestness and humility. And we had some really good calamari. And he's just a sweetheart of a person. So I love that he's got, you know, his Trejo's tacos and the donuts. And I highly recommend that if you are in the Los Angeles area, go support his business because he is a gem of a person.
I totally agree with that. And the very limited interactions that I've had with him have always been positive. He is sort of, he's got that joie de vivre. When you're around him, you're like, whoa, you have some sparkle on you that you can't quite put your finger on, but you're like, you can tell he's in the room before you see him. That was my very limited experience with him. And I love that you have the tea about him and that you got to interact with him. So did that make that experience, were you like, you know, this experience is really tough, but this makes it at least a little bit better?
Yeah. I mean, well, there were a lot of good things about being on that show too, but it was, I think, as someone young starting out their career in the business, it was like another reminder of there are wonderful people out there in this business, you know, and really helping me make my own opinion about what it was instead of what I thought it could be or, you know.
Should be. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. And where can you think of, are there any other super positive celeb experiences that you've had? Because I think that this is kind of a nice little, I think it's very easy, especially for me in LA. It's because of the work I do, I'm surrounded by people that you would recognize pretty often, and I can become a little jaded, I would say, I guess, or just sort of the expectations that I think we put on them can be somewhat unrealistic, but also, you know, you hope that they're just always going to be on their best day. And I think it's hard to remember that, you know, they're humans too, and they don't always have their best days in public. But is there anyone else you can think of, like on a set, that you were like, this person is lovely, even if it were a director or anybody? If there's no one you can think of, totally fine.
I loved Felicity Huffman. She was
really,
yes, she was really personable and friendly and welcoming, and the crew loved her, you know. I mean, extra loved her. There were other people part of that show that were well liked, but she was very well liked.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. And then she told me I sounded like Holly Hunter. So I was like,
you do? Oh my God, you totally do. Holy shit. Not just because of the Southern accent, but because of the way you guys speak is smooth in the same way. How funny.
Well, especially when I had been out here for, you know, so little of a time. And so when you're new on a TV show, you're meeting all these people all day long. And, you know, and when I get nervous, I kind of can sound like this. And so people will be like, where are you from? South Carolina, from South Carolina. And by the end of probably my second day on a new show like that, I was like, I should get a T-shirt made that says I'm from South Carolina, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, I could see that because you have, I mean, I would still say you have probably a thick Southern accent, but I bet people from the South are like, no, her accent's basically gone.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else you can think of that is positive, or maybe is there some sort of advice you would give to PAs who are bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and looking to step into this? No need, if you can't think of anything, no problem. But
a fun thing I can give advice to is that if you're from the South, you have to learn how to not use y'all in your emails all the time.
Did you get called out for that?
No, I just, you know, it's still a thing too when sending anything to like large troops. But hey, how y'all doing? How is everyone? You know, what time are y'all going to be ready? And I don't think people are down for that. That doesn't scream professional.
Okay. I got to stop doing that. I do that anyway.
But I did make a gallon of sweet tea for some ADs I worked for on a movie, and that charmed the pants off of them.
Okay. See? Small little acts of service, and then you're in the game.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, anything else you want people to know about customer service jobs or, being on set, or anything that you just want to get off your chest or add to about either industry?
I will say I still believe film and TV are magical.
I agree.
But do not put up with any bullshit, because there are other nice people that will hire you. I had one of my old roommates, like, he consistently worked for terrible people for a long time. And his idea was like, that's just how the business is. Like, some people's view of Hollywood is like, it's all casting couch. It's all egotistical bullshit. It's like, actually, it's not. When I was hustling for jobs, I would send out emails with my resume saying, hey, I'm looking for any extra days you have. And I had Gus Van Zant's first assistant director get back to me and say, thank you so much. We're shooting out of town, though. And then I had Ron Howard's UPM get back to me. And she was like, thank you so much, but we're going to be in Chicago and hiring locals only. Like, I have been in contact with some really lovely people who love their work. That's the difference. It's like, when you're working for people that love their job, it makes such a difference. So
I totally agree. Yeah. And that dismantling that belief that it has to be awful until it's like amazing. It's like, it doesn't have to just be feast or famine emotionally. It can also be good. You can like what you do.
Yeah. I want to dismantle the belief that, Hollywood's terrible, because there's no way. I know way too many good people in this business that would not be in it for as long as they've been in it if it was all just, greasy, slick agents that you had to deal with. There's so many people that love what they do, and the creativity and the family around it. So,
well, a show that you, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, there's a lot of good things,
Yeah. And a show that you helped get me on, it ran, I don't think it's still running. It was called Trial and Error. And that was like a lovely, lovely experience. And there was a member of the crew he was like, I think he was a grip. I wish I could remember what he did. But when he saw me there over and over and over again, because Michelle kept hooking me up, then he finally said to me, he was like, hey, I noticed that you tend to be like the last in line for the food or something. He just noticed something small about me. And I was like, oh yeah, like, I don't like to push, because you never know. Everybody's always watching. And so then, because crew would get access to food first, he would always make me a plate every day thereafter, and he would put my name on the plate, and then he would leave it to where he thought I was sitting. And I was nobody on set. I was a background actor. Like, he could have just ignored me altogether. And it was such,
I never knew that.
yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, it was the sweetest. And it was like, oh, this is that kind of set. This is just, yeah. That was
but also, did he ask for your phone number?
No, he was never inappropriate. I know. I was like, oh, this is just genuine. You're just like a good person. Isn't that hilarious? Yeah. Anyway. Okay. Well, Michelle, you've given me so much time and so many gems, and I'm just so grateful. And I'm so grateful that you were like, hey, podcast, because I'm very weird about asking my friends. So yay for you being willing to be on this. So how are you comfortable giving out ways people can get in touch with you? Or I know you're kind of...
Nobody cares about me. It's fine.
What she said was, the sound went out. She said, nobody cares about me. It's fine. So when people obviously do care about your dumbass, how do you want people to be able to get in touch with you on socials and stuff?
It's fine.
Okay.
They can redirect their attention to all of the goodness that you are putting out into the world.
Oh, I appreciate you so much.
Yeah. Okay. The KGaffneyLovesYou.com.
Likes you. Yeah. I don't love anybody. I just like people.
KGaffneyLovesYou.com. Redirect all questions and comments through her, please.
Okay. Well, we're going to drop your checks now. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to help us out here at Service from Hell, leave us a 5-star review on iTunes and tell your friends to listen. It will help us reach more people that need to be schooled in the art of being kind, and will be catharsis for those of us still working in the industry. And if you have stories of your own, we'd love to hear them. Email us here at servicefromhellpodcast@gmail.com, and someone from our team will let you know when we're going to read your story on the air. Remember, if you can't afford to tip, you can't afford to go out. So don't be garbage and be good to people. It's easier that way. Thank you guys so much for listening. Michelle, thank you for your time and all of your pearls of wisdom. My goodness, you overwhelmed me in the best way. And thank you for sharing all of your lovely, insider trading stories, because damn, not everybody's that brave. So yay to that. You gave some people some hope, I'm sure. So yeah, thanks for being here, Michelle. And go ahead. You mouthed something. No? Okay. She's done talking. All right. Well, that's it, guys. Good night. was the intro. Is that
You're
better?
so good at that.
Oh, thanks, friend. Appreciate you.
Good job.
Thank you. My old, this guy that I used to host a radio show with in college, he reached out to me via Facebook the other day and he was like, he goes, I GM'd a restaurant for a while. And I was like, oh my God, it's like, I didn't know that. And then I was like, we can get the band back together. We can put our radio show back together. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. Well, thank you for your time.
Yeah. Good luck editing that. What a clusterfuck.
No, that was awesome. What are you talking about? That was so great. I want to pull out all the like little pearls you gave me though. Yeah. Like, my God, so many. I was like, that should be on a t-shirt. That should be on a t-shirt.
So trimming fuck and some sort of.
No, it was great.